Depeche Mode have released Memento Mori, and I finally had a chance to listen to it, and here is my initial reaction. Hello to you, my friend, wherever you may be in the world. Sit back, relax, and strap in. This is going to be a long one. But before we jump into it, this.
1984, the writings on the wall.
Yes, when I'm not talking about Depeche Mode or coaching artists, I am an artist myself, and here is my latest CD. This is my latest EP, 1984, available on CD. You can also find my latest album, which is an LP. Dark Society is available on this beautiful vinyl, as well as limited edition double CD. And in fact, you can go to vaughngeorge.com and you can find my whole back catalogue there. And indeed, if you click in the link in the description below, all the details are there, and you can find my music on Spotify and everywhere else. Just for those of you who are asking. Thank you for your time. And now for today's video. So yesterday, I finally got the chance to listen to this brand new album by Depeche Mode. And I recorded my reaction to that, and that video was about 80 minutes long. And it was like me listening to the whole video and just listening to it in real time. Now that video is available exclusively on watchvg.com. The reason I do that is because, guys, I've explained to you before that original music, when it's played here on YouTube, there are copyright problems I can run into, and I can't monetize the video and things like that. So for that reason, I did set up watchvg.com, and watchvg.com is there for you to not only support my work, but it is also a great way to connect with me personally and to see really in-depth versions of my content. So VG, what did you think of Memento Mori? Well, you're not going to get away with it that easily. I'm going to give some context and insight as I do. So I must say that my criticism on Spirit has been quite well documented. And indeed, check out the video review I did on Spirits of the Forest. Now, I was a bit nervous when I saw Spirits of the Forest. Now, I want to reference something that Dave Vaughn said once in a documentary. I can't remember which one it was, but he said something, and I am paraphrasing. He said something like, if I ever watch myself on footage and I see the cracks starting to show, I will know when it's time to stop. Well, I said when I watched the Spirits of the Forest that DVD release they did, I said the cracks were starting to show there, and I was nervous. I also then said that, I went to see them live during the World Spirit Tour, and I thought the performance was outstanding. I thought it was very, very good. But the actual performance, the footage that was filmed on the that was released for the Spirit, the Spirits of the Forest movie, that wasn't their best performance. Now, and I believe it was snippets from the performance. Now, bear in mind, if you go on tour and you're doing like 100 shows, they're going to be good shows, they're going to be not so good shows, they're going to be outstanding shows. I do believe when they recorded Spirits of the Forest, they didn't necessarily capture their best footage. Now, stay with me. There is context as to why I'm talking about that. It's just that with all that in mind, and, we had lockdown and we hadn't had an album for 6 years, and leaving us with Spirit, I was really disappointed that, is this the last album they're going to leave us with? And I have to just say again, Spirit is not a bad album. I'm not saying it's a bad album. It's just that when it comes to Depeche Mode, the band that, inspired me to get into music and everything, I do not accept mediocrity or anything except short of exceptional. So I was disappointed in Spirit. Even the album cover was lazy. It was just, Spirit to me was an album that was created because they wanted to go on tour and they said, "Oh, we need a new album." And I said at the time, well, I would have liked to have just seen you tour and not release Spirit. Anyway, no more Spirit bashing. These are just my opinions. Just looking at that, the artwork and the design and everything is top notch on this. I mean, even the live footage I've seen that's been surfacing on YouTube of them performing in America, it's looking great. I also want to say that the cracks that I thought I started to see, that were starting to show, I have been very impressed so far by the live footage that I've seen, bearing in mind that the guys are in their early 60s now. Obviously, Dave doesn't move as fast as he used to, but my God, does he not? He looks amazing. And the live footage I've seen so far looks very, very good. Sounds good. And even the drummer, Christian, seems to have tamed it down a little bit. Now, that could come back to bite me in the ass again. I'm not a fan of that over drumming. But from what I've seen so far, it's been on point. Okay. It's quite a big build-up. So, coming on to this album. Let's run through the track listing. At the end, I'm going to give you sort of like the verdict on it. So track 1 being My Cosmos Is Mine. You can see my initial reaction to that video by clicking on the video up here or in the link in the description below. And you will see the video how I reacted to that. Now, obviously, Ghosts Again was the first track I heard. And then My Cosmos Is Mine. And I instantly liked Ghosts Again, and you can watch my reaction video to that as well. And then when I heard My Cosmos Is Mine, I thought, okay, here's a more experimental side. Because when I heard Ghosts Again, I thought, my God, this is Depeche Mode as you've never heard them. And indeed, when Depeche Mode release singles, that is kind of what they do. They want you to go, oh, this is as we've never heard them before. So with Ghosts Again, it was very poppy, but not in a bad way. It's just certainly the most poppy and light-hearted and eyes wide open, and almost the most sincere I've heard them in many years. I also said on one of my many Spirit rants, I said, guys, when you come back, not that I'm here to give you advice, who the hell am I, but just release an album that is sincere and, just stop trying to push this whole innovation thing. Because with Depeche Mode, there was always this desire to not only, write good songs, but also push the frontiers of innovation. Fast forward to the, where we are with technology these days, there are so many innovative bands out there. And so it almost becomes like, I don't want to say we've heard everything so far as sound is concerned, but it's like we are less impressed by synthesized sound. So that is why now, to me, more than ever, it is more important that the song is good. So I said, Martin, please just forget about trying to be innovative. Just give us some good songs. And so far, so good. So with My Cosmos Is Mine, as I demonstrated on my reaction video, it's fundamentally Don't Play With My Heart. Now, forgive me, I don't know the lyrics. I'm just going with the melody. Da, 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 da. My cosmos is mine. It really just hovers on this B flat. Then we get to that part where it goes, no more, no more. It's got all those crazy chromatic chords, which I haven't worked out yet. Check out my reaction video to Cosmos for that. This indeed is a great opener, and indeed it is the song they used to open the live shows with a very dum dum dum. Just that raw, gritty bass line. And of course, from the onset, I'm getting Delta Machine vibes here, but in a good way. There is definitely a sonic character which runs like a thread through the last 5 albums they've done. So My Cosmos Is Mine is very much a atmospheric track. And the emphasis on there is not melody. I mean, it's not a very sort of piano friendly kind of song. You can play it on the piano, but it's more about atmosphere and all these kind of this landscape of sound. And you've got some interesting things there, like sequences. They go and they kind of go out of time, which some people have commented on. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not a mistake. It's intentional, but I like it because there's a lot of things in there that challenge the listener. So My Cosmos is Mine is a great way to start the album, very ambient and, with remnants of some of the sound we've heard before. Right, we then get into track 2, which is Wagging Tongue, and I might need to just remind myself of it for a second. Oh yeah, I remember smiling as soon as I heard this, and I thought, has Vince Clarke just walked into the room? It's got such an Erasure kind of vibe. I do like the sort of analog sequencer running through this. I mean, they've used loads of analog synthesizers in this. You won't do well to silence me. This is a very, like what I like to call eyes wide open kind of song. It's certainly one of the lightest songs Depeche Mode has released in years. Came as a nice surprise. I won't be offended. Cross the great divide. I like this. It was instantly kind of likable. I guess you could say this is clearly an album track. It's not one of the greatest songs on the album. But, remember, when it comes to releasing albums, it's not like these days where you go onto Spotify and you just listen to songs randomly. Every album, or an LP as we used to call it, there is a journey. And I can tell you so far that something Depeche Mode have always been very good at, even in the albums of theirs that I didn't like, they're very good with, the arc of, starting the album and, the build and the drop. And so the way the songs flow, from beginning to end on this is very, very good. And I've never had any criticisms when it comes to, track listing on Depeche Mode's albums. They always seem to get that right. I'm a melody guy, so what I get from this is da 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 da. Watch another angel fly, something like that. But yeah, that's the initial kind of melody I get away from this, and I do like this. It's pretty good. We're then into track 3, which was the first single we heard, Ghosts Again. And as I said on my previous videos, this was instantly likable, and unlike most Depeche Mode songs which take a long time to kind of grow on you, this song was sort of instantly likable because it did have a familiarity to it. And indeed, in that video I did, my initial reaction, I demonstrated how many songs use that same chord progression, and that's probably what gave it a feeling of familiarity. We then go on to track number 4, Don't Say You Love Me. Now this is where it gets really, really deep, and I'm just going to fire that up just for my memory. So yeah, it starts off with some beautiful atmospheric chords, which are very typical of Martin Gore. You'll be the killer, I'll be the corpse. This is where it gets really, really deep, and this was the on initial reaction when I heard this. I thought, oh my God, there's the Dave Gahan that we've missed. Now, a lot of you have been quite critical. Not a lot of you. There have been comments about Dave Gahan's voice sort of changing over the last 20 years or so, and of course it would. But without sidetracking, Dave Gahan used to, if we take sort of like peak time, sort of like to say Violator song, sort of Violator music for the masses, he had this kind of round open tone, which I like to call the Dave Gahan sort of late 80s, early 90s sound. That's sort of like the sound that was characterized by sort of music for the masses and Violator. And he really had this round, it was like a round open. So one of the things Dave did typically as a vocalist was to sing with a lower larynx position. Now when you yawn, like that, your larynx goes lower, and that's what gives you that and there are a lot of singers who adopt that same kind of larynx positions. There's, a classic example being, I've said before, Tears for Fears. The cold is shoulder casting metal, frozen to the bone. To lower. Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. That lower larynx position, and that's really where Dave Gahan's sort of placement is. Now, sort of when we got to Songs of Faith and Devotion, that's when he got quite grungy, but he still had that lower larynx position, but he still incorporates a lot more growl. Now, fast forward to sort of recent albums, he's got this real kind of growl that some of you don't like, and some people have really commented on. It doesn't offend me. I just think, his voice has changed. Now, if you think I'm getting long-winded, the point I'm trying to make is that this album was the first time that I really heard there were like magic moments of that sort of Violator period, and even some from Ultra, and there was that sort of Dave Gahan sound that we loved, but at the same time also in his more mature way, because let's face it, he does sing differently these days. So I think the vocals on this are brilliant. I think Dave and Martin sound amazing. I've often spoke about how they deliver songs. Dave always spoke about this direct, powerful baritone. And okay, I'm speaking symbolically and metaphorically now. Dave's is it's deep and it's grounded and it has this gravel and it's direct. Then Martin's is high and it's light and it's not as grounded, and it's so when you've got this direct voice coming at you and then this angelic voice at the top. I sound crazy, don't I? But I can't explain it in any other way. That is their sound, and the vocals on this are top notch. And I guess what I'm trying to say is when I heard the opening lines to this song, I just thought, oh my God, you, my friend, are on top form. And now that we've spoken, I've missed the song, so let me just remind myself how it sounds. So this one, written by Martin and Richard Butler, and it's, while we're onto that, so it was interesting to see the credits on this. In fact, when I looked at the back of this, you got all the credits here, I thought, my God, there are a lot of people involved in this. It's like an army of people involved in this. And what's most notable is if you look at older Depeche Mode records, it's typically all songs written by Martin Al Gore, with the exception of maybe, a few by Alan in the older days, and more recently Dave. But certainly on this record, we've got loads of, co-writes, with Richard Butler, Christian Eigner, Peter Gordino. So I don't know, maybe Martin's grown up in the sense that maybe he's not, when I say grown up, I don't mean he was childish. But I think, Martin's such a great songwriter. I think it was just accepted in the older days that he would write all the songs. But, I am surprised to see how many other collaborations there are here. And as you will hear at the end of this, surprisingly, some of my favorite songs on this are not Martin's songs. So I was really, really surprised to see, all the collaborations. But anyway, onto this song, Don't Say You Love Me. Certainly this is the part where the album gets really intense. It's starting off with My Cosmos Is Mine. It's kind of, it's quite dark and edgy, but this is where it gets really emotional and desperate. The sound of this song is very, very filmic. It reminds me of sort of like an old French love story, or, sort of old European. It's just got that kind of vibe. Great vocals. Really do like it. Not one of my favorite ones, but as I've said, Depeche Mode songs take a while to grow on you. You don't sort of instantly like them because they're quite rich and there's a lot happening. So you need time to kind of digest them. Okay, so let's on to the next one, which is called My Favorite Stranger. And forgive me as I just remind myself. Oh yes, I remember this one. Something like that. My perfect stranger. I always look for the core melody, and what I'm getting from it is the It's da 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 da, and then the bass line you get is. So the sort of general gist or melody, bearing in mind that I've never played it before, is. That perfect stranger. Once again, there's a lot of sort of textures in this, a lot of sort of like scratchy type sounds, a lot of sort of like drum machine type drums, which they're not trying to emulate the sound of a real drum here, which some people think is a bit contradictory or conflicting, because the record is made with electronic drums. Now, why do they use an acoustic drum set live? I don't have a problem with that per se. My gripes with the drumming were more the fact that it was overplayed, and of course the fact that I don't like the snare that Christian uses generally. Just coming back to this one, very, very scratchy and quite brittle sounding, and something which I will get into when I discuss the sort of general sound at the end of this video is how a lot of the sounds that they use now are not, although they, some of them can be quite grating or striking, or they don't sort of jump out at you. They're kind of in the background, and I don't want to focus too much on the production. My Perfect Stranger. Once again, this song, very atmospheric. Yeah. As I say, I need more time with this. Let's skip to the next one. Soul With Me. It's got that beautiful string that starts in the beginning. Instantly draws you in as a melody guy, personally. There we go. I'm heading for... I love that. Dun, dun, dun. This is the... when you're listening to an album, a Depeche Mode album, you're waiting for the golden Martin Gore voice. This particular song, very 70s sounding, I said on my initial reaction. It's got a real sort of 70s kind of vibe. And the emphasis here is really atmosphere. I do like the... I like the... Taking my soul with me. This is one of the better Martin Gore solos we've had in quite a few albums. I do like this. I've said this before on previous videos that, Martin tends to sometimes go off on a tangent on some of his songs, and I give that to him, because that's kind of what his soul does. But yeah, this one, as a Martin Gore number, I do like it. There were a few that he did in recent years that I didn't like, which I'm not going to mention, but this one... And as I say, I've only heard this album once. This is the second time I'm listening to it now. It's sort of coming back to me now, and I'm starting to sort of... The neural pathways in my brain are starting to join up now. So, and give me a few more lessons, and then I can give you a full album review. Now that's... I like that one. We're now on to the next one, which is... Oh, Caroline's Monkey. I laughed when I read the title. This was another one that was written by... I think this is a Gore and Butler song. Yes, Martin Gore and Butler. Yeah, I mean... I remember reading a comment online on one of the forums or on my Facebook group. Someone was saying something about, what the hell is this song? And upon listening to the lyrics, I realized it's not literally about a monkey. It's, from what I can gather upon initial reaction, is that the monkey is this is a song about drugs, I think. So the monkey is the drugs that are bothering her. Yeah, I mean, this is, to me, an album track. It's quite quirky. This is Martin Gore getting really quirky again. Listening to it now, the second time, it's definitely got something that I didn't hear yesterday, if you know what I mean. It takes a while. Dum 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 dum. Nice, a nice bass sound. Fading's better than failing. And then it's got that part where it goes sometimes, and it gets all discordant. It reminds me of Sometimes from Clean. Yeah. Let's skip this one, shall we? Before We Drown. Oh yeah. This one really stood out to me as, wow, this is really, really good. Who wrote this one? Definitely, this is one of the strongest songs on the album as far as I'm concerned. And it's written by Dave Vaughn, Peter Gordino, and Christian Eigner. No Martin Gore. This one did instantly resonate with me, and the chords are really, really rich. And the fascinating thing is to read the track listing and realize that this is not written by Martin Gore. But it is a very Depeche Mode-esque song. And though there are no real sort of Gorisms in here, remember, a Gorism is a phrase I've coined for kind of strange chords that Martin always uses within a sequence. These are very kind of Depeche-esque chords. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that Martin wrote this, because it certainly has that, that structure. It's fundamentally just a B flat to a D minor, to an F minor, and to a C minor. I don't know the words, but it's first we stand up, and then before we drown, da 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 da, before we drown. But that's why I always say, the melody to me is always more important than the lyrics, because, and I'll make a video on that. It's quite an edgy subject that people sometimes argue with me. But to me, if the tune's good, you will like it. The melody, I'll do a video about that. But the melody is the thing that stands out fundamentally, and then the lyrics. If you like the melody, you're more likely to like the lyrics as well. So just taking those four chords, we can kind of pianify it, as I do with my improvisations, and just expand on it. It's so beautiful that it's cool, and it can go anywhere. Beautiful. Really stood out to me as a standout track, and possibly one of the best Depeche Mode songs of the last 20 years, as far as I'm concerned. All right, track 9. This one's called People Are Good, and I'm sure a lot of you, like me, when you read that, you probably thought, is this a follow-up to People Are People? This is one of the songs that kind of washed over me upon initial reaction. When I listened to it yesterday, songs like Before We Drown really went wow. This one is kind of like, it kind of just washed over me. However, listening to it now, I'm hearing something that I never heard yesterday. I once again repeat myself and say, you need to listen to these songs a few times for them to grow on you. People are good, and the melodies. A real typical Martin Gore minor key type. Heaven help me. Yeah, this part I like. Definitely better second time round. Then people are good. I don't think this is going to be one of my favorite ones. I can tell. It's listening to it now as opposed to yesterday. Having listened to it the second time now, it is growing on me already. So there are no crap songs on this so far. On this album so far, there's a lot of emphasis on synthesized, sort of modular synth sequences and stuff here being used. You can hear they had a lot of fun making this. Okay, well, it has a positive message. It's not really, drawing me in. But yeah, it's not bad. Right, on to Always You. Oh yes, this one. This one I liked. This one. And I just listening to it again, the second time now. It really draws you in. Always You. This one was quite intense. A Martin Gore song, yeah. This to me was, from what I remember, one of the best ones on the album. There it is. My love. How's it? Let me find the melody. My love. My love. No solid ground. There is something in here. I'm getting. It just off the top of my head. I'm getting a talk vibe here. Something from Mark Hollis. Mark Hollis. I'm just getting that vibe. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm getting a talk kind of Mark Hollis kind of vibe here. It feels like I'm doing a seance here. There's someone in the room here. There's someone in the room. There's always you. Yes, this one I do like. This one's really going to grow on me. I'm so glad they've come back with a better album. I feel the emotion in this one. There's always you. There's always you. Yeah, very intense. Like this one. Right, let's skip to number 11. This one's Never Let Me Go. Oh yeah, when I heard this one, I was like, "Oh Lillian!" I thought, "Oh no, it's got the same drum track as Lillian." Slightly. But then we get that guitar, which I like, and the discordant chord there. And now it's instantly better than Lillian. This one, yeah, it's. I'll get into my comments on the sort of production and sounds and stuff at the end. But this, so listening to this the first time, it didn't really do much, but it's coming back to me now that I've listening to it the second time. I do like that. I do like guitar sound. A lot of people in my community here, are into their synthesizers, and so am I, of course, but I do like guitar a lot. Because there are certain things guitars can do that synthesizers cannot. And synthesizers can look a bit awkward on stage as well. Another topic for another video. Okay, well, so far, as I say, let me come back to you in a few weeks with a full review. Now, the last track... Okay, actually, before we go to the last track, let's see who wrote this one. Never Let Me Go. Oh yeah, it's definitely a Martin Gore song. You can hear the discordant nature of it, definitely. Right, the final track, and this of course was kind of a blow your mind kind of track, this last one. It was really wow. And I like the fact there's no real drums or percussion in this. It's just strings and very, very emotional. And this one is called Speak to Me. And it was written by Dave Vaughn, Christian Eigner, James Ford, and Marta Solgorta. Sorry, forgive my pronunciation. I need to... and Marta's done a very good job on the mixing on this. I mean, you can't knock the production. It's just, Speak to Me was a great way to end the album. Hey, so what's my verdict on this? Of course, it would be unfair for me to give a verdict or a kind of like a review or a rating out of 10 as I do on my album review series. The whole idea of this video, and as you can see, it's all a bit sort of on the fly, and is reaction. And I guess what I can say after having listened to this now once fully and a little bit fragmented on this second time round between the artwork, the presentation, and everything, I think the guys are back. For those of you who say that this is the best album since Songs of Faith and Devotion, I wouldn't go that far. I would say this is probably the best album since Playing the Angel. In fact, and once again, it would be unfair to rate it because those other previous Depeche Mode albums I've heard for years. So this needs time to settle into my psyche. But upon initial reaction, I do think that this is probably going to be on par with an album like Playing the Angel. Certainly better than the last three albums. But I try to, and it's difficult, I try to approach this album as freshly as I could. Yeah, that's quite difficult because you're trying to not compare it to all the stuff you've heard before, which is impossible to do. No matter how clear-minded you try to come to something, you're always going to, once you hear that Dave Gahan voice with Martin Gore, it's so deeply embedded into your psyche, you're always going to associate it with, great songs like World in My Eyes and, just mention any other Depeche Mode song. So and of course, we as human beings, we are, our brains are mechanisms of association. They always try to associate things with other things. And so it's impossible to listen to things purely objectively and, with a fresh perspective. But just, if you're going to sort of, let's say, compare this to sort of like some of the, let's say like the albums that, the Gareth Jones albums. The Gareth Jones albums had tremendous like dynamics, just the way they'd move the speaker cone. And I don't want to go off topic now, but a lot of the sounds will kind of jump out at you. In this case, they don't. Although there's a lot of interesting layers in this. There's nothing. I mean, think of any sort of heyday Depeche Mode song. Think of the lead sound to Halo. It's like, wow, there's just nothing like that. This album doesn't have any of those sounds like that kind of jump at you. So I think that the strength to this album is it's very cohesive. It sounds good. There's nothing that sort of jumps out and is like it doesn't belong on there. The decision to use the same sort of drum sound throughout the record is something that I feel is possibly, to my taste, a little bit limiting. I also find like, the snares that can be a little bit, they kind of... Now, these are not criticisms. These are personal tastes. Now, when I'm coaching up-and-coming producers and stuff, I like to reference a saying by one of my favorite mix engineers, a guy called Dave Pensado. One of Dave Pensado's brilliant sayings are, when you're mixing, you are mixing to show your taste, not your skill. Now, why am I telling you that? Well, the reason I'm telling you that is because a lot of this comes down to taste. It's not necessarily skill because, I mean, you can't knock the production on this. It is absolutely world class. However, when it comes to taste, if you listen to my music, and I'm really not trying to compare myself on Depeche Mode or put myself on that level, my approach is going to be different, as is Vince Clarke. If you listen to Vince Clarke, if you listen to Aha, if you listen to Trevor Horn, I'm just throwing out random ideas there, names there. Every producer will have a different way of approaching things. Now, this, although it's better than Spirit, I can hear a sort of sonic similarity between this and Spirit, and indeed Delta Machine, and there is a sort of sonic signature that runs through these last five albums. There is kind of like a brittlety or a brittleness to the sound. Brittlety, is there such a word? But not in a bad way. I'm just saying, for my taste personally, if I had done something, I would have approached this differently. Now, that's not a criticism. That's not me saying I know more. This is just my taste. So the sound of this is very good. It's well put together and all these things. It's just not necessarily to my taste. I still find some of the... There's still like a little bit of warmth lacking. And it's very difficult to say. I know in the sort of heyday of Depeche Mode records, and indeed if you watch the video that I did with my mate Simon Forsyth on the Emacs, and the Emacs is that that keyboard I usually have up here, which plays all the Depeche Mode samples. There is a certain sonic character within the lower mids and the sounds which give that sounds of that time, because of the technology that was used, give it this kind of like honk. It's kind of like a honk. I will need to do a video on this because I don't want to lose you here. I'm just trying to articulate as clearly as I can. I guess what you can take away from this, without me getting too geeky, is that I do like this. I am impressed, and I'm relieved, because I was horrified after hearing Spirit that we were going to go down the same route. There are characteristics in this album that are sort of present in the last 4 albums as well. Not in a bad way. There's obviously, we talk about the Alan Wilder, and okay, so their sound changed after Alan left, and there was something in common with all these records. I would say Ultra was kind of like a different beast, and then also there was Exciter, which was kind of different entirely, but certainly from Playing the Angel right up until this one, there's definitely there's like a thread running through them, and there is a typical sonic character which runs all the way through, which is synonymous with their new sound. I'm not criticizing it, it's just their new sound. As I'm saying, so far as what my taste is concerned, if I was producing this record, I know that sounds very pretentious, I don't mean it that way, I'm just saying I would have approached it differently, not necessarily in the way of Violate or that, but this is just, I guess what I'm trying to articulate to you here is, and you guys value my opinion, and I appreciate that, but it's just my opinion, and I'm giving you my honest opinion, and it's all about taste. So I would say, so far, from what I'm hearing, I would deem this to be a good to a very good album. I wouldn't call it outstanding, or some people have said one of the best. Well, I think there are a few people who said this is the best album ever, and I just thought, no man, what are you smoking, or you've just been missing them too much. It's definitely not their best album ever, but this is up there with one of the better albums they've done. So I'm very pleased to hear it, and upon initial reaction, it was pretty good. I don't have any criticisms on it, as I did with Spirit and stuff. I just have comments, and the comments are purely subjective. Things like the snares, and I also think that the drum programming sometimes, although there's nothing wrong wrong with it. It's very metronomic. It's on the bar. It's boom boom. It's programmed. It's whereas when they perform live now, it's played with a live drum, and which some of you like and some of you don't. But I just feel that certainly with the more recent albums, because the drums are so metronomically programmed, you lose a lot of that sort of groove and feel and stuff. And once again, that's just a personal preference. There's nothing technically wrong with it. But just sort of coming back to the team that put this together, you just read the credits on the back here. They are ton. I've never known a Depeche Mode album, to have this many people involved. It's like an army of people involved. It's certainly a long, a far cry away from if we take like the Gareth Jones and Daniel Miller collaboration with Depeche Mode, which was just the band and Daniel and Gareth. I mean, you look at this, it's like a whole page of credits. But once again, as I said in a video, I said, look, man, Depeche Mode have done their time. They've got nothing to prove, really. They've raised the bar to a ridiculous height. They've done the 10 out of 10 albums. They've got the cult following. So, and here we are still talking about them after all this time. So, I'm just happy to have the guys back. And as I say, from the live footage I've seen so far, they're looking fantastic and they're performing quite well. And I'm really excited. So there we go. My friend, I hope you enjoyed that. This video may have been a little bit waffly. As I say, I don't usually script my videos. I don't use auto cues and things like that. But I think for a video like this particularly, I just wanted to have it as authentic as possible. Just sort of giving you my thoughts as they go. Now, there's a lot of Depeche Mode news to come. Just as I was preparing a lot of content to talk about other things, now Depeche Mode are doing an album, and there is a lot of Depeche Mode mania, and excitement throughout the world. So you will be happy to know, surprise, surprise, that there is a lot more Depeche Mode content to come, a lot of in-depth content to come here, as well as some live events where you can meet me and some of the original Depeche Mode producers. I'm not going to say any more than that, but just hit that subscribe button and you will never miss any information. If you're on Facebook, check out the Vaughn George Facebook group. Do join that community. It's a great community, and you can meet like-minded people, and a great way to connect and talk about the videos that we talk about on the Vaughn George channel. And once again, if you'd like more in-depth, closer connection to me and my inner circle, then consider joining watchvg.com. There we go, my friend. Leave your comment in the description below. This has been a very long video, but so far, so good. I guess what I'm saying is I will be releasing a lot more videos where I talk a lot more about this because, as I say, this needs time to grow on me. And that's it from me, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. Lots of love, and I'll see you on the next video. Adios.